Alrighty. And we're live, beaming to you directly from Sydney, Australia and Montreal in Canada. This morning, we've got a wonderful guest that's got such an incredible story that I just know is going to resonate with so many of you guys. The last 48 hours or so, I've been getting so many messages in reference to today's LiveCast, one of the most that I've ever received. So I just know that there's going to be quite a decent audience watching this one. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome on the show a young lady that has gone through an awakening process over the last year that so many of us can resonate with. She has a background, engineering, modeling, software on an international scale. She was really living the corporate life and then experienced an awakening that has led her down this path to where she is today. And I can't wait for her to share this story with us. Robina Dhindsa, welcome to the Awakening Point.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
And what time is it over there in Canada?
Here it's 7 p.m.
Perfect time. Very good. Well, Robina, we connected not too long ago, and the little that I know of your story is incredible. I'm really excited to have you on the show today because you and I actually share a lot of parallels in the time of our awakening, where we both came from the corporate world, and there's so many parallels here that I'm really excited. So where do you think is the best place for us to start today in sharing your journey with the audience?
I think maybe just giving a little background of kind of my journey before my explosive awakening. It's kind of a journey that's sort of reads like a movie, so some of it's going to be relatable to a lot of people, and then some of it maybe not so much. But at the end of the day, I think it's important to focus on the feeling as opposed to just the specific experiences that I had, because I think that a lot of people could resonate with it. So maybe I'll just take you back and just talk a little bit about my journey and then what led to that point, which was a little over a year ago today, and what led me to make this massive 180-degree shift in probably every aspect of my life. So I can just go from there. Is that good?
Sounds wonderful. Let's do it.
Okay. Well, so my background is engineering. So I studied engineering. I never liked it. I thought it was really boring, but whatever, I did it and so be it. So I worked as an engineer a little, but then my life has always been sort of, twisty and turny, and I happened to meet, so my life has happened to meet people, and it's a weird life because I've had all these amazing experiences, but a little bit unconscious, it's kind of a weird thing. So it's, so you're all going to think, wow, she had all these amazing experiences. Yes, but it was a little bit like a wild horse running free and just sort of not really using my intuition or my heart too much, So you can have a really cool life and not use your intuition that much. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So I did engineering, and then all of a sudden I met someone. We ended up getting married. So just like that, everything happened just quick. He happened to be a big deal photographer. So that led to the modeling because we did so much work together, and then I had a really great book. So I ended up living in Milan. Hey, Amanda. I'm going to talk about Amanda in a sec. I ended up living in Milan. I lived in Greece. I lived in Munich. And then afterwards, we settled in Brazil. Okay. So it's all a bit of a whirlwind. So I never really stopped to appreciate where I was and kind of, as I say now, had my awareness switch on. It was always to the off position while I was doing all this stuff, which was kind of a shame, but I didn't know any better. And when you don't know any better, what are you going to do, right? You just sort of go along life and just sort of meet people along the way and do your thing, right? So then we end up being in Brazil, and my ex-husband said, okay, well, I don't want to be a fashion photographer anymore. I want to take photos of tribes. So I want to live in the jungles. And I said, okay. So everything was just okay. I always went along with everything. Sure, that sounds about right. And so we spent a lot of time in the Amazon in Ecuador. And the irony is that we spent a lot of time with these powerful shamans and who would do ayahuasca, things that I had no idea what the hell it was back then. But obviously later on in my life, forward, 20 years, I would understand all this stuff, or less than 20 years. And so life was just twists and turns. So lots of experience in the jungles, and then we went to Indonesia, and then we went all over the place. And so lots and lots of travel, but I felt that a lot of it was escaping. And I feel that when you try to do so much and occupy your days and shove it with travel and stuff, you're kind of avoiding to be with yourself, and be with the other person, because you actually don't connect with the other person. So let's just fill it with stuff, right? Let's just do stuff. Let's buy stuff. Let's go places, and let's have a glamorous life. So it was a little bit of a phony life, and it never really felt real. Even the modeling stuff never really felt good. But at that point, I wasn't very aware. So what are you going to do? You just go along with the ride. And it's a bumpy ride. So when you're not aware, there's so many highs and there's so many lows. And when it's low, it's really low. And when it's high, it's really high. So it was never quite in the middle, right? So then eventually I returned back to Montreal, and then I took a life in sales. And so I ended up working in different software companies. So I realized that I can sell stuff. So I sold a lot of different stuff, right? So I sold computers, and I sold all sorts of different software, medical equipment, surgical equipment for orthopedic surgeons, and you name it, like I sold it, right? And so I would have all these sales jobs and hated every job I had. Why? Because there was this empty feeling, and it was all so phony, and it was just not me. But I didn't know what being me meant, right? But I just knew it was not me. So I started kind of touching on some spiritual things, but it wasn't really, it was kind of like faux spirituality. I just did a meditation here and there, but didn't really understand what it means. And then I would move on to the next job. And then finally, I wound up at Microsoft. And that was one of the highest paying jobs that I had. And, I thought, well, that's it, right? So, my God, what else is there? And then now I can buy a house. So I can buy this house. I can buy stuff. I can buy things. I can buy a car. And yet it was always so empty. And going to work was painful. I hated every moment of it. But other people were like, oh my God, but you got this amazing job, all this money. And oh my God, you have like the best accounts. Every sales rep wants to have those accounts and work at Microsoft, but it was so emptying. And I felt like I was just a phony all day long, and having to be sort of fake to get along with people, look a certain way, or, you can't really be accepted, having to wine and dine these people that I didn't really like. And it was just one thing after the next. And I felt like that was just my whole life. My whole life was just a series of kind of being phony a little. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you could relate, like being in the corporate world is just like, I felt like a little rat going along, and all for what? For money. And it was just, there was something missing, but I didn't know what the hell that was, And so, yeah. And then about a year ago, or maybe around April, a series of events happened. And I'm a big believer that, unfortunately, you kind of need some bad stuff to happen to awaken. Like you always hear people saying, oh, I went through a traumatic divorce, blah, blah, blah. But then that was the trigger. So it's not so much the event, it's the place that triggers you. So I'm never really caught up in the details of what happened. It's more where it hit me. So I had a couple of series of events, and it hit a place in me, and it triggered me. And I think that was just the beginning. And so a year ago, it just sort of exploded. And I also believe, I don't know if you feel the same way or the people watching, is that there's also, I think, a set divine period and a divine timeline that many people have the highest probability to awaken, right? So it's no coincidence that why is this happening like last year, the year before, now-ish, right? So I think that it's probability because we do have free will. So I didn't have to awaken last year, but there was a high probability that if I dug into that trigger, then I could shift my life in a very dramatic way. And so I did it. So whatever made me do it, I guess it was my soul that was pulling me as opposed to the last 20 years where my body was pulling my soul. It was really my soul just, I don't know, it just said enough is enough. And then when you kind of have enough, that's kind of when surrender takes place. When you're just like, I give up. I give up. This life is a joke. I hated life. I hated my life. All this stuff didn't mean anything. And that's kind of, where I was at,
That's absolutely incredible. I mean, just listening to you, Robina, I'm like, oh my God, this is me. Like, I'm totally resonating with everything that you're saying. I went through exactly the same. And there's going to be some people in the audience that aren't going to quite understand what it is that you felt so empty about, or what it was that you were struggling so much with internally, so deep. Sometimes it's difficult to explain it, but for those who do connect, they know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that hollow feeling of no matter how so-called successful you are in the game, there's no depth to it. It's just this shallow, broad thing.
Absolutely. And like the best way I can describe it is sitting right here on that couch over there. And I was talking to Victor about it. I know you've had Victor on the show, and we kind of relate to this, that, I located my awakening point. It really is. It's almost, but it is, it's almost like a point of, like there's the God gene, like this is like awakening point. It's almost like a gene or something that you explode and trigger. But like, I remember sitting there and everything went sort of blurry. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? And, Sonia. And, one of my best friends, and all of my best friends now are going through the same thing, and it's no coincidence that we've all connected. So it's like it all went blurry, and all of a sudden I'm looking at this very same house that I had such an attachment for. I was like, oh my God, I did this, right? Whenever you say I, it's massive ego right there, right? I did this. I bought it. I did something good with my life. I bought this house. All of a sudden, this house just became a bunch of walls. There's a door. There's a bunch of stuff that I accumulated. And it just sort of went blurry and like I was looking through a tunnel. And it really freaked me out. It was very scary. None of this was pleasant. It was really, really scary. And I thought, oh my God, maybe I'm dying or something. Or maybe I don't know what the hell's going on. And so I started having those moments. And then a bunch of my hair fell out. And I was like, whoa, even my body is going through some massive shift. So a big chunk of my hair fell out. And I was like, oh my God. And so this was happening over the course of maybe like a weekish or so. And then I thought, oh my God, well, I don't know how to get out of this. I don't know how to get out of this. And now I look back at that moment of don't know what to do as surrender. And surrender is something that I can't get through meditation. For me, it just doesn't work. I need to have everything collapse in front of me to experience surrender. And I know that you, Michael, talked about surrender on one of your LiveCasts, and
yes,
you can relate, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And so then the only way I can describe what I'm about to tell you is that I was just divinely led, and that's all I can say. And now I can confidently say it because I have faith and trust, which I never had before. And I can explain that a little bit too, what the hell faith and trust means, right? And so I remember sitting one night at the edge of my bed, and I live in the city. So there's no birds or anything in the city. It's very regular city, buildings and stuff like that. And I was sitting at my bed, and at my window, something was tapping, and I'm like, oh my God, what is this thing? And so I got up, and it was 10 p.m. at night, a gigantic bird, huge black bird with massive wings and this massive face. And again, I live in the city. If there's birds, there's just little sparrows, right? And so this bird looked at me and it tilted its little head so its eyes could meet my eyes. And I was like, I felt something. And at this point, I didn't know much about spirituality, to be honest. I didn't know the spiritual terms that I'm about to say. I didn't know much about anything, but I did know that there was a message here for me. And afterwards, I went to my bed and I Googled, right? Because what do you do, right? Symbolism, bird, meeting you at a window, right? And so, and then the first thing I said, I'm going to trust the first thing that I first see on Google. And Google, wherever I landed, it said, massive change will occur tomorrow. I was like, oh no, oh shit. So, yup, massive change. So something I once again massively exploded the next day. I was like, oh my God, what the hell is happening to me? I must be cursed or something, right? Because you think it's bad. Because I always looked at things as good and bad. Everything's good and bad. And so afterwards, I was like, oh my God, I don't know. Okay, let's just go online. Let's just Google. Let's go on YouTube. Okay, so I went on YouTube. And then I came across somebody named Amanda Marie, okay, who's actually right here. And she's a channeler, okay? And she's one of the most amazing channelers in the world who channels ascended masters like Jesus and stuff like that, Archangel Michael, your deceased loved ones, blah, blah, blah. I didn't believe in all that, to be honest. I was like, okay, whatever. But for some reason, I zoned in on her. And so I'm watching her and I'm like, I just felt truth. I don't know anything else, but I felt truth. And I'm like, I have to contact her. I don't know why. Yeah, signs are everywhere. Absolutely. And that's it. I was open. I didn't have a big window open, but I had a little window open. And then, so I talked to Amanda, and Amanda channeled the Abraham Collective, Abraham Hicks. Again, I was like, didn't know who the hell Abraham was, to be honest. And then she also channeled my aunt who passed away. And she said details that nobody could know. And I thought, oh, what the hell? And also my grandmother. And they all said that you're about to take a massive shift. And they said, we are so proud of you for doing so. And I'm like, don't be so proud yet. I didn't do anything yet. And so I would talk to her often, and she'd provide some guidance, and I would listen to her because I wasn't listening to anybody. So I started listening to her, and we started doing some clearings and meditations together. And then all I can explain is just, it snowballed. So I suddenly started realizing by just my own intuition, and that we're all energy, that everything is energy. Me too. That I'm energy. This table is energy. There is no difference between this table and me. It's almost like a deeper knowing started pouring out of me that was buried, that was encrusted. You know what I mean? Like when we're a kid, when we're 5 years old, we have this inner child in us. We have the inner critic, but still the light of the knowing was plowing through all of that stuff, and it was trying to tell me, you know this stuff already. You know this stuff. You just came in here with amnesia, but you're remembering. And so I then decided to watch Wayne Dyer, and I just randomly started, and I just became obsessed with Wayne Dyer. And so I remember watching YouTube videos on Wayne Dyer, and it just resonated with me. It just clicked. I was like, yes, of course, it totally makes sense. And that's when I learned about one's frequency. Oh my goodness. Frequency and energy is key. And the key is your feeling state. Oh my goodness. It was starting to sort of click together. And I then decided to make some quick shifts, because I have that kind of energy that I'm very all or none kind of person. I'm really not in the middle. It's just not my nature. So I started listening to Wayne Dyer, and then I did massive shifts. So I said, okay, you know what? Everything, because I listened to Wayne Dyer, and everything that had, and everything that had a low vibration, eliminate. So no more TV. TV's gone. No more radio. That means no music. I don't know any popular songs. I don't know anything that's going on with music or whatever, because I just felt it was all, yeah, totally. It was all affecting me because I'm kind of a frequency being. So sounds affect me, and identifying with the words affected me. So no TV, no radio, no alcohol of any kind, not a glass of wine, not a half a glass of wine, under no circumstances. So I made those really, really quick shifts, right? And I was already a vegetarian, so my food was clean. No sweetener, no artificial things. All of those are very low vibration. So they're going to keep you really low. And I needed to increase my vibration because it was so low. And so I started doing those things. And I started feeling a little bit better. Not amazing, not happy, but better. And I thought, okay, I feel a little better. I'm still working at Microsoft. I still have to go to work. I still hate all these people. And I hated the work, although I was grateful, because when you get paid, and I didn't understand what it meant, what money really meant, that it was really energy. I didn't know any of that stuff. I didn't know what abundance consciousness was. I didn't know anything. So I just said, I feel a little better, but all right, I'll just go on and whatever it is. And then I started writing all the things that resonated with me that Wayne Dyer said on Post-it notes. And I would stick them everywhere because I didn't want to give myself an opportunity to think. So I said, okay, everywhere I look, I want to see something positive. So I would stick them everywhere. Every single place that he said something that was just, that's so cool. And also Abraham Hicks, everywhere, the bathroom, this thing, you name it, it was just everywhere. And especially next to my bed too. So before I went to sleep, I saw it, and then when I woke up. And so then I continued all of that stuff. And then again, I just started feeling better. And I then realized the importance of having a daily spiritual routine. It is so important. And kind of an obsessive routine. I'm really a big believer in being obsessed over spirituality. Like if you're going to be obsessed over anything, be obsessed with yourself and spirituality, not shoes or, like a car. Like this is the best thing to be obsessed about, right? And so I was just utterly obsessed about it. And no matter what, I'd meditate twice a day, every day, even if I didn't feel like it, especially if I didn't feel like it. And I would go on YouTube and I just find whatever resonated with me. And it changes over the years, but I just became obsessed with Wayne Dyer, and I wanted to do everything Wayne Dyer related. So I did his meditations, and I just was feeling happier and better. And then I remember talking to Amanda, and Amanda had channeled somebody. I remember my aunt or something. Oh no, she had channeled Wayne Dyer, believe it or not. It was actually Wayne Dyer. And at this point, I began to believe that this was true, right? And so Wayne Dyer says to me, you're going to be shifting into a more spiritual way of life and your career too. And I'm like, okay, this is not even real. I work at Microsoft. Like, this is not going to happen. I mean, I have to pay for things. I have a mortgage. I have a car. No, she's wrong. She's wrong. And so I thought, well, whatever. And so I started having a very regimented practice, and I started having a little bit of faith and trust. And the faith and trust came when I started seeing my outside world reflect what was happening on the inside. Suddenly I was making new friends who were so I'm just distracted reading that, who were resonating and where I was. So I made a good friend, Sarah, and Sarah was and is on the same path that I'm on. And I'm such a big advocate of finding one good friend, just one. You don't need like a million. Get one who's not going to drag you down, who's on the same kind of journey. It is very important. Not your partner, not a guy, not a girl, a friend. there's something very special about that, you know, and or unless you're lucky enough to have this amazing partner or whatever, then it's great. But I think an outsider is important, someone who doesn't see you every day. You know, I think there's a power in that. What do you think about that?
Absolutely, because I mean, I just listening to you now, I think it's you know, the freedom of not having a certain dense labels attached to a person, for instance, like your partner, which really takes a lot of spiritual work to see your partner as a being, you know, because you're with them all the time. So it takes a little bit more work and focused intent to remove that label of wife or husband or partner, where I totally resonate with what you're saying, because that's a person that you know, that doesn't have that label, so there's a lot more freedom to communicate.
No, I completely agree with that. And so, yeah. And how did I meet Sarah? I asked for it. And that's when I realized focused intention. It's always been about focused intention, but you're never going to be able to intend something if this vessel is not clear. So that's why you got to do the work. And sometimes the work isn't just, okay, I'll meditate in the morning. Sometimes it's more. What is the one thing you suggest someone who's a beginner? I think the number one step, clear this vessel, okay? And baby steps. So I'm a little dramatic. I like to do everything all at once, but you don't have to, right? So get rid of the alcohol, okay, gone. Don't watch TV, not even a movie. Don't listen to the radio, okay? Thank you, Victor. And only listen to spiritual music. And spiritual music is really cool, like devotional music, Snatam Kar, Niranjan Kar. There's some really cool music, solfeggio music that corresponds to the different energy points on the different chakras. That's way more powerful than the popular stuff that's on the radio. And it's just, and then you'll end up even thinking of those songs just as you would a popular song on the radio. It's very interesting. So I would say the beginner, clear that shit. Just clear it all up, clear the vessel, eat well, that alone. Second step, just meditate, but nothing crazy. Go on YouTube, guided meditation for beginners or something. And there's not even a such thing as beginner. Meditation is meditation, but there's so many different kinds. And there's some amazing people, they'll guide you right through it. And they'll say, okay, picture this, and you're there. And that's meditation, you know, and trust it. And then as I'm doing all this stuff, because I shift very quickly, so I'm a bit of a tornado type of energy, and I can shift, and I can shift out of things quick, I can shift into things quick. That's what I was learning. So I started developing my own techniques, which is stuff that I teach now. And some of my techniques involve journaling. And journaling is so super powerful. And if I were to say that, you know, even if there's a beginner or someone who's just wants to try something new, I want to tell you about this technique. It's so absolutely cool. I always have a book next to me in bed. No matter what, it's always sitting there, and it's just your book. It's not to share with anybody else but you. And here's what you do. So write down the date 2 days out. Okay, so not today. So let's say today's Tuesday, write it for Thursday. Write it for Thursday, write as if the day has already happened. But you're gonna go in super, super painstaking detail, and every single thing is gonna work out, okay? So even if you feel like absolute shit, if you want to die and you hate your life, still do it. If you're crying while you're doing it, you're gonna still do it, okay? Especially that. So even if you feel like the world is ending, it's never gonna get better, open that book and write it, okay? So I'm gonna give you an example of what you would write. Okay, so I'm gonna start off by saying, okay, today I woke up in absolute joy. As soon as I opened my eyes, I was so grateful for the ability to see, for the ability to feel, to touch, to have a home. I got up out of bed, I brushed my teeth. I was so grateful for my teeth. I was grateful for not having cavities. Details, right? And then move on to your coffee or everything that you do. I had the most amazing meditation where I was able to connect to my higher self. My higher self divinely guided me, and it provided an insight that's going to help me in this day. Now you're going to go further. Now you're going to leave the house while you're writing. So let's say in your life you want to attract somebody. Let's say you want a guy. So let's say you want a divine partner. Perfect. You're going to write, I went down the street and I went to the coffee shop and I saw someone there from a distance. As I approached, I recognized him. I knew him from lifetimes. As soon as I looked in his eyes, So blah, blah, blah. You go super crazy detail. You end the day and you end the day going to bed, right? So what are you trying to do there? It's gratitude, but it's also, you know what I call it? Predictive journaling, okay? Because you're not psychic. It's not that you're predicting the event. You know what you're doing? I'm after the feeling. So when I did this, I want that feeling before I go to bed. And it's very powerful before you go to bed, right? So when I finished that, even if I was feeling like shit, man, I felt hopeful. I felt really good because I got so descriptive and I'm visual. So I saw everything happening and I did that every few days, okay? I later manifested the person exactly how I saw him. And I believe in alchemy. I believe in doing other writing techniques. I believe in crystal grids. So using a crystal grid and using my intention, I manifested my partner, who was my partner at the time. Not anymore because I shifted right out of him. But for that period of time, because anybody can do this, but it was just because I just used focused intention. It's very powerful, these techniques, because I was trying to be happy, and that's what I was after. I was after the feeling, because my environment is not going to be good unless my vibration is high. I am not going to attract the people that I need on my path if I'm feeling like shit. And I wasn't naturally happy, and it's not the kind of person I am. Thank you. I'm just not naturally happy. I just wasn't born that way. It doesn't happen that I wake up in pure joy. I have to kind of work at it a little bit. So I just love techniques like that are easy peasy to do, that anybody can do it, even if you feel like shit, and it's free. So I would love to help you with my services, but even if you can't, that's okay. You can do it for free, And so I started developing techniques like that, and I incorporated that. Because again, I believe in having a daily regimented ritual, right? So I started doing things like that, and I started understanding the beauty of feelings, right? Feelings have their place. Suffering has its place. Pain does too. And we all know that very, very well, because that's your divine guidance system. No one should shove their feelings, I think it's very, very important to feel the feelings. And then I went on and I went further and further and further, but I'm just a total believer in a daily routine. How do you feel about that, Michael? Like having a routine, do you do that as well?
I'm actually the opposite. I'm very anarchistic in that sense, but it's not really opposite. It's kind of the same thing in the sense that, this is all about intent. And you've touched on that yourself. And I thought that was like really, really great. That sharpening intent, being able to hold focus with intent is something that has to be done daily. So yes, you're right, by having like a schedule that can help people to focus their intent, to hold their intent in order to manifest things, in order to modify future probabilities, as Tom Campbell would say in my big toe terminology. So yes, it's very important. I do it a different way, but it is kind of like the same thing. Totally get where you're coming from.
Because the thing is, each feeling that you have in the present moment is creating the next screenshots of your life. That's just a fact. So it's very, very important to be aware. That's all. You can be upset and everything, but just be aware, So having an awareness is key. And something else that's really, really key when it comes to manifesting and focused intention is the concept of letting it go. So when I would do those meditations for manifesting, there's a meditation called the Ah meditation, AH. Okay, so if you go on YouTube, you can do Wayne Dyer Ah meditation. And I love that, and I still do that to this day. And so when you're doing that meditation, there's other people that do it too. So sometimes I go to other teachers, sometimes Wayne Dyer. While you're doing it, and you get to the point where, okay, now visualize in your mind's eye that what you wish to manifest. Okay, perfect. And I really love this concept, which I would like to know what everyone feels about this, because I like it because I can visualize it. So when you visualize what you wish to manifest, so shutting your eyes and seeing it very, very clear in your mind's eye, then saying ah, the ah sort of bakes it. Okay, kind of like you're baking a cake. Think of mantras as baking it, and it sealed it. Okay, so when I think of that, I think, okay, I put it in the oven and I baked it, and the cake baked. That visualization baked it, came to life, and the next step, let it go. That's it, we're done. You do not have to keep obsessing over that visualization and think it didn't work. Maybe I need to think of it more. Absolutely not. And that's where you have to have trust and faith. And trust and faith comes when you start seeing the stuff manifest. When you start seeing, oh my God, a door opened where there was no door. A path opened where there was dirt. There was absolutely no dirt. And then it appeases our ego, like, okay, it's working. So, we have to live with our ego, right? But we're going to appease it too, saying, see, I showed you, there's proof. It does work. Look at my life. And my life now is a testament to that too. I have doors opening all over the place, and everything is a divine encounter, not because I'm pushing and pulling and forcing and fighting. It's because I'm just simply allowing and being very clear and living a very simple life. A life that's not obsessed with money, a life that's not obsessed with much. And it's all good with me. It's just more of a freeing type of life. And I think that's freedom. And I don't think I ever knew freedom, So that's touching on freedom. I think that's really the crux of this whole thing. I think we're at a time now where even top level scientists, neuroscientists in the world, like Andrew Gallimore out of Okinawa, are basically from a scientific standpoint, showing us and speaking publicly that there does seem to be multiple dimensions linking together. So it's like, for those of us that are spiritually awakening, we have established a connection with a dimension, a realm, a state of being, a higher state, whatever you want to call it. We've established that connection, and even though we don't fully understand it because it's coming from outside of here, we feel it. And that's another thing that I'm connecting with you big time, Robina, is in the feeling, because that's where we really, some days, yourself, you feel this urge, some sort of an inspiration that's greater than being human, and it's just saying, go there. And you just go, and it leads you to so many other things, and you continue waking up. So totally loving this journey so far. Absolutely, it's an exciting journey with a lot of twists and turns. Is it annoying that the sun is on my face, or
no,
are you still okay? No, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a bit sunny. I'm just beaming sunlight here, but I have bunch of interesting things to share that hopefully you guys will find interesting. But because I've always been sort of told that, oh my God, you're kind of like a tornado, you have too much emotions, blah blah blah. It's just very ironic that the thing that I was told that was bad is the thing that I use so much, and that's my guiding system. Those very feelings that I was told, oh, I can't handle it, and oh no, they're the greatest thing. So without knowing it, you're guided to others at the same line. Absolutely, but that's trust. How did I meet Sonia? Where did she come from? Oh my God, just randomly, and we became the best of friends. How the hell did that happen? Because we're being guided divinely behind the scenes. Guess what? I asked for it too, though. And you have to ask for it. You have to ask for it. It's not magic. It'll be magic if you ask for it. Because we have, I'm not sure if all of you believe this or not, but we have a team around us of angelic guides, ancestors, all sorts of things that we can't see with our mind's eye, but you got to ask them for help, and they can do little nudges. They can do little things in the background to help us out, and, trust your feelings. Yeah, absolutely. And, some stuff that might be useful for you guys is, some other techniques, because I love visualizing techniques, right? So when I feel an emotion, let's say an emotion comes up like anger or guilt or jealousy or whatever. So sometimes it just gets the best of us, right? And it just takes over, and that's normal. But what if we considered this? What if we considered every time we feel an emotion, let's take it anger, that you're birthing it, okay? So I picture it coming from me, that I'm now birthing it, that unless I take a second and put my awareness switch on and look at it and ask it, okay, where does this come from? Let me try to surrender it. If I can't do that, now it's going to take a life of its own. So what I like to do, put a name to it, put a color on it, put a consistency on it, because then it becomes real and not intangible like anger, So I'm picturing anger as just this black blob and kind of irregular and really gross looking. And I've birthed this now. Okay, so I birthed this. And I live in an apartment, okay? So I birthed this, and now it's slowly floating up. Okay, so it's slowly floating up, and now it's disappeared. Perfect, so it's gone, right? Not really. It's up there, but everybody else who's in my building and this general geographical area, if they feel a similar attractor energy, like jealousy and resentment and guilt and whatever, their blob is also going to attach to yours. And you've birthed a huge consciousness of this negative anger, lower vibration entity almost, right? And so what I like to go a little further. So not only are you kind of affecting other people, because I like to always think of other people, and as I'm sure you all are very nice people, that you don't want to affect other people, because I feel like we can affect people. I feel like we are all powerful, that if we feel anger, we can affect the guy who's living downstairs, right? And so how do you open the chakras? Well, we'll talk about that in a second. But so let's picture now a humongous blob of anger, and out of that blob of anger is tons and tons of black energetic cords, okay? And all of these energetic cords are stuck onto the people who are feeling it. So the guy downstairs, So not only are you attached to anger, you become anger. You are anger now. It's not that you've attracted the anger consciousness, you've become it. Anger and you is the same thing. That's going to send you on the lowest vibration ever. And so it's really, really, I was just reading. So it's really, really, really important to do some grounding, right? To do inner child work, to do inner critic work. There's amazing teachers that do that. I've kind of been making up my own sort of practices for that too, that you actually have to go to the root of it. And the root of it is when you were 5 or 6 years old. Okay, so that's a long time ago. And if you can tackle that, it's going to have a ripple effect for the rest of your life. So if you think that, it's too late, I'm already 42 and there's like a million bad things that happened. No, sometimes you just have to solve that one thing when you were 5 or 6 years old, and then it has ripple effects. And then you feel better, And I think visualizing emotions is really, really powerful. And I think that's something that we can do. And if we do that, it'll prevent us from sinking into anger, sinking into sadness, because I see it as a consciousness, That's how I see it. I don't know if you see it that way too, but that's how I picture it. And I like visualizing, so.
I think a lot of people are with you on that. A lot of people are very visual. I'm big on visualizations myself. So, I actually visualize lots of things every day, especially when I feel stuck, for instance, in a day where I wake up and someone might trigger me and, the anger rises in me. I like to visualize myself kind of getting rid of that. letting that go. So yeah, that was really good. What you just touched on there was great.
Absolutely. And kind of getting back to the initial question there, of, okay, well, how do I get started? Like, let's say I've never done meditation or anything like that. Another great place to start is be in service. There is nothing that will kickstart a beautiful spiritual journey, right? Victor and I were talking about that. Be in service. That's so beautiful. And if you're all wondering, well, what do I do? What exactly do I go? Do what I did. Volunteer at hospice. That's what I did 8 years ago, and I volunteer regularly. And here we call it palliative care, or sometimes it's known as hospice. And then you're thinking, oh no, but it's sad and depressing. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So I think that being in service is very, very important. It not only appeases the ego, so you get to drop off the ego at the door, because it has nothing to do with someone saying, good job, you're doing so great. It has nothing to do with that. You're purely in service, slowly feeding people. You're slowly changing them. And the conversations you have are mind-blowing with people at the end of life. Very, very beautiful. So if we give birth to our emotions, we can set them free. If we don't, they sink. Yeah, I mean, if we give birth to our emotions, I think we do. I think we create these entities, right? And if you're not going to do anything about it, if you're not going to confront it and face it and acknowledge it and do some grounding, then they're going to go up and they're going to attach themselves to the consciousness. It's not all doomed, because you can still fix it. You can still confront it, but it's a little bit late, because if you don't have your aware button on and you live that kind of life, that, you know, every day is a freak out, every day you're losing your mind over something, then you're walking around with a cloud on you. You're walking around with a dark cloud, and then you wonder why everything sucks, why nothing works out, why can't I have anything good in my life, you know? But you're not taking a moment to face it, and you have to face it, and it's uncomfortable, and it's messy, and it's painful, but you have to do it. We all do, you know?
We've got so many comments coming through. I can hardly keep up with it, Robina.
Is there any questions? Is there any, like, because I can't see any of them except when they pop up on the screen.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Okay, we got back to Star. Star was asking, how do we open chakras? If you want to tackle that one yet?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, first of all, you have to recognize which ones are blocked. Now, the way I recognize it is by the feeling in my body, right? So I know something's wonky because I actually feel it, but people do it in different ways. So you can recognize that it's blocked because you can't. I just actually talked to someone recently who was just incapable of communicating. Oh, I can't deal with feelings. I can't deal with emotions. Whoa, super, super blockage, right? So that's super, super blocked. Meditate is the best way. So when I was going through my shift, right, something that I would do is I love crystal bowls, okay, or Tibetan bowls. So I don't know if you all know what that is, but Tibetan bowls are small and gold and metallic, but then the crystal ones are a little bit bigger. So sometimes what I would do is go on YouTube, guided meditation, and to tackle whatever. Let's say just your heart chakra. Just focus on this. I love crystals too. I take a crystal. You lie down. You take a crystal. You can put the heart, the rose quartz on your chest or next to you. And I love taking the Tibetan bowl and actually putting it on my chest, and then I start visualizing. As I'm hitting it, it's making the sound, or I'm going around. I'm visualizing the blockages, because it's all our belief. I mean, are they really blocked, or is it just because we believe they're blocked, right? So that's a loaded question too. So I visualize it unblocking. And I love affirmations too. Affirmations specifically for the different areas, and write them over and over again. Do it again before you go to bed. I love and respect myself. I love and you know, like everything that has to do with yourself, because it's always about yourself that obviously you're focusing on. So I think the combination of writing affirmations, the combination of guided meditation, crystals. I love crystal grids. I love meditating in front of a crystal grid. You don't need a crystal grid, by the way. You don't need to buy crystals or anything, but I also became a little bit of an expert in crystals during my journey because I used to hoard them. But I didn't know what to do with them. I just thought they were really pretty and they're sparkly and they're really nice and everything. But then I realized I have a shit ton of crystals. And then I took a course, a little workshop on making crystal grids and how to infuse it with your intention. So you make this beautiful crystal grid. Doesn't matter what the crystals are. Like some people are too caught up, it has to be this. It can be whatever you want it to be. Make a symmetric crystal grid, take a crystal point and go over each crystal in a clockwise manner. Yeah, Sonia owns a beautiful crystal shop. And go over each crystal with your intention, okay? And you're asking the crystals to work with you. If you don't, they're just a rock and they're not gonna do anything. They're a beautiful rock and they have a high vibration, but why not work with them? Really believe that you're no different from the crystal, because you're not. On an energetic level, you and the crystal, nothing different. So go around the crystal, go around the whole entire thing with your intention, ask your guides and angels for your help, for whatever it is you're trying to release. If you have a blockage in certain chakras, guides and angels and crystals help me, divinely guide me into blocking this. They're not going to do it for you, but they're going to divinely guide you. And then you're going to see certain things happening in your life. You're like, oh, okay. Oh, I feel better. I confronted that person and I spoke up and now I feel better. You know, that kind of stuff. Those are my tips.
And Robina, you know, in reference to the crystals and, you know, being guided and just in general shifting from an unconscious state, you know, I'm saying that because you touched on something very important that I thought was really perceptive of you. And that is when people are just confused as hell, they're just pissed off, you know, 24 hours a day, and they're wondering why, you know, life is so tough for them. They're wondering, they're thinking to themselves, why is just every day full of shit for me? I cannot do anything right. I can't get ahead, you know, and it's because they're in an unconscious state. And as they start to become conscious, you know, the things that are blocking them, they start to become aware of it. So in your case, as you started to become conscious of yourself, your real self, not the avatar, during this time that you were at Microsoft, tell us a little bit about, you know, how that kind of happened in your case, and did it have anything to do with crystals and, you know, like more divine kind of intervention?
Yeah, I mean, I started feeling that I was very divinely led by everything, and I still do. So I stopped perceiving things as, oh my God, the boss is an asshole. Oh my God, these people don't understand me. Oh, women don't like me. No, I started perceiving everything as characters in this play, in my play, that they're there to teach me. So even if something that I perceive as bad happens, if somebody leaves me, doesn't like me, that's also divinely guided, and that's part of the plan. And so by that, it started shifting my perception at Microsoft. So it was like, it wasn't as bad anymore. It was okay. It was like, okay, I'm not supposed to be here, but it wasn't terrible anymore. It wasn't, this is the worst place on earth anymore. You know, it wasn't all that. It became a little bit lighter. And then I just was getting these intuitions that I'm supposed to do something else, but I don't know what to do. I'm not really sure. And I really don't believe in making drastic changes in life. I think everything should be done with sort of a calculated risk, right? You shouldn't just be, you know, just quit and leave. I really don't, I'm not an advocate for that, because there's very, very organized ways of doing things. So what I did was I had a plan, and I always have a plan. So I decided to take another job that was in a smaller company and transition out of Microsoft. So I got rid of Microsoft. No more big corporate world. Okay, so I'm going to work just a little bit at a startup. And then after that, I transitioned into another consulting job just 2 days a week. as I was doing that, I was shifting into my coaching. I was shifting into everything that I'm doing now. And so it was very, very gradual and without any fear. There was no fear throughout this whole process. I was just doing it, and I really, really, really believe I was divinely led. In fact, maybe 2 months ago, I asked for help, and I think it's very powerful to ask for help, and I think everyone should ask for help. Even if you think, oh, I don't know, who's going to help me? But I always do before bed, because I was feeling a little bit lost, a little bit, should I take this direction? Should I take that? I don't know what to do. And I woke up at night and I had an angelic visitor. Because when you open yourself up to other dimensions by doing meditations and stuff, then you start being open to these beautiful visitors. So you can actually see it, not in your mind's eye, but really. You can actually see it really in front of you. So this was a divine mother, Astrea. So if you Google Astrea, Astrea, you can see her picture, and that's exactly what she looked like. There was this beautiful woman with blonde hair, very short blonde hair, very beautiful blue eyes, and a big smile, a divine mother. And she didn't say anything, but she looked at me, and I had an instant knowing, that I can't explain. An instant knowing, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. And sometimes we just need to be told that it's all going to be okay, And then it happened again, like a few weeks ago. I asked for some help again because, I don't know, I saw that it works. So another being came also. And oftentimes they don't talk, but they're just telling you, we're there and we're working in the background to support you. So even if you're perceiving things are upside down and wonky and just going in every direction, there's a plan for you. There's a purpose for that too. So we perceive it as everything's gone to shit, but it's really not. It's really just part of the plan,
100%. I mean, I've had some experiences like that myself, especially over the last month or two, where I think connecting with the bigger picture, connecting with who we really are and what's really going on, when we come back into this little picture world, what we were so stressed about, what was dominating our thoughts so much, we kind of learned to let it go, because that is not the be all and end all. There is a bigger picture, there is a bigger story going on. And, I think people like us and our audience, there is an awakening going on. There's a mission going on. There is a greater good. And we are kind of awakening and feeling this urge to join the fight for the greater good, sort of thing, for everyone. And it's this outside of this as well as inside of this.
So very much so. And it's something that you can't go back on. So even if you wake up and just get so fed up and thank you, and it just, thinking it's too hard, it's too late. You can't. It's too late, because why? You're kind of being led by something greater than you. And it's just, it's not possible to go back again. I cannot go back and call Microsoft and say I made a mistake. I can't go back to that world. It's not possible anymore. It's almost like, I can't wait. Where is he? Did that? Aw. She's so great. It's so nice to meet people who don't really know you, who believe so much in you, And a very quick story about how I met Sonia. I worked at the Tucson Gem Show, and I worked for someone who I didn't really like, and I wasn't having a really good time. And then I saw Sonia, and I didn't really have a conversation with her before. But then all of a sudden we started speaking, because she was wearing this very necklace, and I'm like, oh, I really like your necklace. Where'd you get it? And she was like, oh, well, I'm working at for this friend, and he sells jewelry by John of God. And John of God is this healer in Brazil. And I said, oh, I heard about him on Oprah once. And she was like, yeah, I'm there tomorrow. Why don't you come? So then I thought, oh, okay. So I went, and then I met the gentleman who's selling this stuff, and a very beautiful being also, and very, very aware. And we all just connected. It was just instant click. And then I worked for him at the Hay House event and met Sonia also in Toronto a couple weeks ago. So it's like, just these chance encounters, that are not really chance. It's just divinely guided, and now we call ourselves John of God sisters because of our connection. I mean, look how we met, like John of God, and together we're going to go one day to Brazil just because of this, And so we have to believe that we are all guided and led, and I'm going forward at just warped speeds because, like you said, we have a greater mission here, and less about Robina, more about the greater good. And that's where I'm focused now, Thank you. And yeah, and even if even if something bad happens or something that completely rocks me, I have a very different perspective on things. So the old Robina, if something bad happened, I would just lose my mind and I would be really, really upset. But now I have faith and trust, and no one can take that away from you, and nor can I explain that to anybody. It's just, okay, this happened, it really sucks, but there is a divine purpose. End of story. Now we're going to move forward. That's it. It's done.
I think that divine purpose, it's a kind of special intuition that it's so deep within us, and the more that we shed our own fears, and the more the space in our soul that's left when those fears are shed kind of like automatically fills more with love, which then allows us to make decisions and guide ourselves in a more loving way, which attracts more loving beings to us, which then in turn opens more doors. And then it just keeps, the ripple effect just keeps growing and growing and growing. And sometimes we're not even aware of just how much of an impact we're having on ourselves, our family, our friends, other people, and vice versa.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny that we should take back and look, because now, if I see my parents while I'm on this journey, they're even different, because you have an energetic effect on other people too. Your immediate family, probably people in this building too, that I don't even know are being affected, because one person can affect probably this whole building, this whole area, maybe even the city. And it's just that it's not tangible, so we can't wrap our brains around this. But it's the truth. It's the truth, and I feel it.
So, Robina, we've got up to the point where you've left Microsoft. You've gone into a smaller situation. So you've done this intelligently. You've kind of balanced the right brain and the left brain. Yeah. You've followed your intuition, but at the same time, you've followed a plan, because there are rules that we need to follow in this world still. We can't just turn around and hide in a cave somewhere. So I like the way that you've that you've very intelligently made your shift. So once you were at this smaller company, I think you were saying that you were doing 2 days a week at that company, and then that's when you started your coaching. Tell us a little bit about your coaching. Tell us a little bit about where people can find you online or whatever.
Absolutely.
And just a bit about how you help people through the same sort of situation that you've gone through yourself.
Absolutely. And just to backtrack just for 2 seconds, it was also letting go of titles and that kind of thing. So I was very caught up in senior vice president, senior executive, right? And then all of a sudden, I just didn't give a shit about that anymore. And I took a consulting role behind the scenes. I didn't even want to meet the VPs and all the people I met anymore. I wanted to be behind the scenes, that they didn't even know who I was, and just do business development. So I took what would be considered by a lot of sales reps a massive step back, but I took a step forward. For me, it was so empowering. I don't care about titles. I don't care about being seen. So I did that. And then so then I created, and it's a little bit of a work in progress. My website is shiftingyourlife.com. And I'm going to be offering more group sessions soon and workshops. And I'm going to be teaming up with some of the people that I'm meeting along this journey. And it's really one-on-one coaching. And my thing is that I don't want to get caught up in details, like I said, because to me, you can spend an hour talking about who did what to whom, and this person broke up with me and da-da-da. That's not the idea. What I'm interested in is the trigger. Okay, so where in you was affected? Okay, so what is that limiting core belief? It's that core belief that we're going to tackle. So I'm interested in core belief, having ways to release that core belief, and I want to know about that person's daily life. Because life, spirituality is experiential. It's going out in the world. You're not going to stay home all day and do meditations and practice. You actually have to leave home. So I want to know who they are and what their routine is. It's very important to have a daily routine. So are you meditating, but then you're going drinking at night every night? Well, it's all for naught, right? So you have to be consistent. You don't have to be overly obsessive like I am, but you gotta make some shifts if you want to shift your life in a more evolutionary, more positive way. And I teach them about their vibration too, because a lot of people are not aware about vibration and feelings and all of that stuff. So what you put in your body, having alcohol, that lowers your vibration. So it's always important to maintain your vibration, but I just teach people to keep their awareness switch on. So I coach them and then they can contact me also for updates and anytime they want. So it's almost like having a really good friend, and because I know in the past psychologists didn't really work for me. I found that I was just like talking too much, and it was more painful to regurgitate all the events of your life because there's 42 years worth of stuff. So I really love the concept of life coaching and spiritual guidance and coaching in that way. And I hope to do more speaking engagements and larger groups and that kind of thing. So
I think you're hitting the nail right on the head there, Robina. I mean, so many people understand things on the intellectual level.
Yeah.
And they may stay on that intellectual level for years, and then one day they understand that same thing at the feeling level, at the heart level. And then it's like bingo, the penny drops, and they understand that, it's not, these aren't things that you can just sit down and understand intellectually and think about and ponder. When it goes into the heart and it's felt, goes into the actual being level, then it's like it starts to flow forward and interact with the world, and change starts.
100%. Absolutely. I mean, if the biggest thing that a takeaway that people could get from today is really always be in touch with your feeling state. Everything is about your feeling state, and it's okay to feel. It's okay to feel, and it's okay even to be triggered, because then you know that where you have to look into. That's okay, and everything can be looked into. We need to take off the blinkers so we can open our minds to see what's around us. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Like when I wake up in the morning and I just tell myself, okay, awareness switch on, because it's easy to go back. Because if 41 years I was a certain way, and 1 year I was aware, then it's so easy for my body to go back, my ego to say, it's all bullshit. You don't need to meditate, just skip today, right? But no. Can you speak about our common ultimate purpose of being here? Oh, Jesus.
Victorio Aquaro.
Lord. Well, listen, I know what you would say.
Yes.
He's this ambassador of unconditional love, and that's it. And honestly, like I don't know if I've really felt unconditional love. I'm starting to discover it for myself. And unconditional love is felt by loving yourself, by saying yes when you mean yes, by saying no when you mean no, by honoring yourself. It's the little things. It's the day-to-day little things of honoring yourself. It has nothing to do with another person. So our ultimate purpose is not, I want to help people. It's to experience love, I think, and go about your life knowing and understanding who you are and accepting yourself. That's what my purpose is, I feel. Self-acceptance. And everything in my path is trying to show me that. Everything is mirroring that. From the people that come into my life, to the jobs, to the bosses. It was all for me, to accept me. And in a meditation that I had when I was going through the journey, I heard my voice say to me that nothing happened, something like nothing was taken away from you. It was all happening for you. everything was happening for you. So nothing was taken away for you. Nothing's ever taken away. This is all big illusion too, that something's taken away from me. That person's gone. They're taken away. They were never yours. You didn't own them. You didn't own the job that fired you. It's all what your mind has led you to believe, that it's so important to have that job and blah, 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 that nonsense, So,
100% on the money there, Robina. I mean, we both have a strong connection with Victor, and Victor has helped me crystallize life purpose as well, which is all about becoming love. It's all about that long, multi-dimensional, multi-life journey of letting fear go and becoming more love, and then being the example and affecting other people to then answer the call. Because at the end of the day, we've got this call that's calling us, and a lot of us are unconscious to it, but then all of a sudden, for some reason, we're ready and we hear the call, and that call is always like, become love, and the more specific we are every moment of the day in becoming more love, the better this experience becomes and the more we learn.
Absolutely. And I have a ton of fear, and fear is okay, because fear can be your friend. It's okay, because sometimes fear protects you. Sometimes fear is there, and it's okay. I don't know if you can ever really get rid of it or anything. So the best you can do is just, it's like a friend that you don't even really like, that it's just something that's just along for the ride. And as long as you don't give into it, then it's okay,
Absolutely. I totally agree with you there, Robina. I mean, fear is, it's in a way, it's fundamental, because, I mean, how do you evolve? How do you even know what love is if there is no fear? It doesn't make sense.
I agree. And I think we all chose to come to Earth, which is, I don't know if it's the only dualistic planet, but maybe it's one of the only ones that has the dualistic high, low, yes, no, love, hate. And it was our way. We agreed to come here because the only way for us to learn about love is to learn the opposite too, and through pain and immense pain and suffering, then we know the opposite too, joy and having a beautiful, peaceful life. So we had to sometimes experience an absolute shitty life and have people who are not very nice to us and who are cold to us and mean to us, for us to ultimately really appreciate the opposite. So that's our dualistic world that we live in, and maybe there's a beauty in that, because we did choose to be here. So,
I'm seeing myself of late, especially, there's so much pain in the world. There are so many people all around the world in so much pain. I kind of wasn't aware as much as I am now of just the amount of pain in the world. But at the same time, there is this hope. It's something more than hope, that we are evolving. We are waking up more. So it's kind of like this two-edged sword of energy, where there is so much pain, but that's part of awakening, I think.
It is. And I was watching, I like Facebook now. I never used to like it, but I'm connecting to so many interesting people, and you see from every country, they're going through the same types of things. And then I think Victor clicked like on this video today, so I was watching it and I was like, oh, very fascinating. This girl, she was really, really upset, and she was like, life is absolutely shit, and she was crying, and she was like, can't I get a break, blah, blah, blah. But I looked at that as kind of beautiful, because it kind of reminded me of me, because it's when you reach that point of being so fed up. Yeah, fear is I think fear can be an asset too. And when you're at the point of being so fed up with life, like, can't I just get a break? Then the surrender happens, because you sort of give up. Then maybe you're open to divine guidance. So I actually think that she was probably suffering so much, but maybe something good can happen. And you're right, I saw a lot of pain, but isn't it through the pain that a lot of these souls are awakening? If I didn't experience pain, I wouldn't be here today. I would be at Microsoft, selling some software. And not that there's anything wrong with it, but I would be unevolved and unawakened selling the software. But Selling the software awakened is okay. It's just the unawakened part.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And I mean, Victor himself has touched on conversations with me over the last year on, an interesting point that the vast majority of people who do experience some sort of an awakening do so in a very, very painful situation. It's usually a really fearful or painful or frightening, situation that it gets to for whatever reason that triggers this awakening. I know that's exactly how it was with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know why it has to be that way though. Like, why can't an awakening be peaceful and then you're just waking up one day and then you're like, awakened. But I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, I feel like the majority of people I know have had such painful lives. Like, sometimes dramatically painful. Like, the worst things have happened, and not just one trigger moment, but lots and lots of bad things, almost like a whole life of bad. And now I can almost predict who's going to awaken just based on what their life has been like. And I almost see it as kind of like, wow, kind of a good thing, because you have such a great potential to just wake up from this matrix. And what does waking up anyways mean? It just means just operating more from your heart and understanding why we're here and what this is all about, understanding what we spoke about before, energy and all this sort of thing, and that we have a purpose, that there's no such thing as death, blah, 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 all that stuff. That's what waking up is,
Yeah, it's kind of like just a process of coming out of unconsciousness and coming into consciousness, and that's all relative to where we're at. I know when I come into contact with beings that are really much, much more conscious than myself, I really feel it straight away, and I'm inspired instantly at their capacity to love, at their capacity to tolerate the world, and not judge and accept everything. That incredible capacity to do all those things is just so inspiring to me now at a very deep level.
Yeah, very much. It's very inspiring to me too. And I'm completely drawn to people like that. But then where there's people like that, there's people who are completely walking dead, like just zombies, right? And it's not your job to change people either. So I know, like, I was reading one of these Facebook groups, and somebody was mentioning, oh my God, my partner or my husband is completely closed and unawakened, and I'm trying everything I can to change his mind, to change him. A, it's not going to happen. B, it's not your job. So, everyone is on their journey, and sometimes people are not meant to wake up. It's just not what their soul wants to do, or it's just not what they've chosen to experience in this life. And then those people, you just don't resonate with them and you let them go. And then, because I only want to really talk to people who are on my kind of journey or inspired to be on this journey, because otherwise it's a complete conflict. Then you end up justifying yourself, and you never have to justify beliefs to anybody. And I found myself doing that this year, and then those relationships just didn't work out. Like, people who were atheists were very drawn to me for some reason, and they were like, oh, whatever, you just do your thing. No, it's not a thing. It's not a hobby, It's the truth. But you can't tell them that because they're not there. And so it just won't click. And then we all have a choice in life of who we want to spend our time with. And I choose to spend my time with people who are just on the similar kind of path that I'm on.
So true, Robina. I mean, we're not on some kind of a crusade, are we? Where we have to kind of like dominate other people and get them to turn to our way by putting them into a corner and trying to save them or whatever. It's just not like that.
No, I mean, you can't force feed someone meditation. You can't tie them down and say you have to meditate. No, I mean, that's ego. That even goes against the whole principle. It's just total ego. Sometimes those roads left traveled have the most amazing scenery. It's all about the journey. It's true. And it's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of how you see it. And when I had the job there, after Microsoft, the guy was telling me, you have such a boring life. I would never want your life. Oh my God, you don't drink? oh my God, right? And he was like, I don't want that life. And fine, but I'm not there to change his. That's okay. That's all right. So people, I think on a different level, like on a deeper level, he did get it. That's why he had such an adverse reaction to it, because it triggered him. You know, if he was at peace with himself, then he wouldn't have to even talk about my journey. So in a way, it was a good thing, because when someone is triggered, that's actually a good thing. You know, it means that somewhere in them is like, oh, I know the truth, you know? And,
that's it. They're recognizing your capacity to love, your capacity to accept them as they are, your capacity to, you know, not judge them. And sometimes that does trigger people, because they realize, like, oh my God,
yeah,
I really do want to be like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe the final thing that I'll leave you guys with is something really interesting, that when I was going on my journey, I went to a store here, one of my favorite stores. They sell all sorts of angelic things called Ange Neige, right? And she says, and as I was talking, she says, Robina, look where your hand is going. And I'm like, what? Where is it going? And my hand constantly touched my heart when I spoke, right? But I wasn't aware of it. And so that was also proof, because we all want to know, are we living a heart-centered way of life? My God, even my hand is going to my heart, because every time I would talk, it's from my heart. You know, and it's kind of a neat thing if you all, you know, are aware of that too. But again, you have to be aware of it. I wasn't even aware where my hand was going, but it's all about unconditional acceptance and love, and not easy to feel, not easy to find. But if you put your intention there, that's the first step. It's all about intention.
Robina, what's a final message that you can leave for those in the audience that are watching now and that will watch this in the coming days and weeks on Facebook, as well as YouTube and all the rest of the social media platforms we'll send it on to, that are kind of really resonating with what you're saying, that may be in different stages of that path, and that are fearful about following this journey? What's something that you can leave them with? A little bit of wisdom.
Well, if I could impart anything, it's, again, I'm really a big advocate of having a daily routine and not talking to a lot of people about it. So when you're going through this and you have fear, don't go talking to people at work about it. Don't talk to lots of people about it, because that will confuse you more. And there's not very many people in the corporate kind of world who are on this kind of journey. So if you have a lot of fear, but you're having thoughts of, but I want to do this, I want you to just take some baby steps. You don't have to go crazy like me, and you don't have to think in the future too that well, how do I get from having this job to then maybe being a coach? Well, it's very, very baby steps, but I also know that it can happen so quickly. So adopt a few things and start feeling better. Go baby steps. That's really my best advice. And do the fun journaling techniques. In fact, tonight I'm going to do it. And I'm going to write 2 days out or 3 days out. Why? Because I want to get even on a higher vibration. And I love manifesting. And there's certain things that I want in my life. I have certain desires, and I'd like to get them, and I know I can get them. And so do little baby things and see how your world reflects. It's the best advice I could give.
And I think that's absolutely wonderful advice, Robina. You have been such an absolute pleasure. You're a natural at this. You know, it's hard to believe this is your first kind of live interaction, you know, as a coach, as a teacher. I really, really look forward to working with you into the near future. You know, both of our organizations doing our work together, along with Vittorio, and you know, and really just bringing awareness. The audience that we've had on today has been one of the most beautiful audiences I've ever had on the Awakening Point LiveCast. So I'd like to thank you, Robina, and thank all the beautiful people who have been a part of this conversation today. You know, you're all, I can feel your heart from here coming through the screen. So big love to all of you. And I certainly look forward to having you back on the LiveCast as a regular contributor and coach, Robina.
Absolutely.
So,
love it.
Thanks to everyone, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you so much. Bye. Bye, everybody.